I think I did not turn on the sound, so that would do
It
it.
never fails. Whenever
Yeah,
there's always something.
this is what
The
yeah,
live stream.
streaming. Okay, as long
This
as
is live television, folks.
Yes.
uh oh, as long as I get the good
Okay.
to go. Okay, we're good. Oh my goodness, thank you. All right, well, we'll start over. That's not too bad as long as I didn't go through 20 minutes, without the
That's
sound
right,
on.
yeah.
No
We
kidding.
iron out the kinks right at the beginning. Okay, well, sorry about that, everyone. So we'll restart now that I have sound. Welcome to Beyond the Wide World of JRPGs with NIS America. This stream today is a continuation of our Anime Expo panel just over a month ago, which was all about the wide world of JRPGs here with our lovely guests. So today I have with me David Vink RPGs. Hello, David.
Hello, everybody. I am so glad that there is sound. That is very happy to me.
Yeah, a very good thing. At the very least, we have sound today. Thank you for joining me. And then Brandon from Just the Gems. Hello, how are you?
Hey, how's it going? I'm really glad to get to redo my introduction because I felt like I said hello really weird last time. So,
Okay.
hey, how's it going?
Nobody heard it, so we're all cool. Just between the four of us. And finally, we have Cameron Hawkins. Hey, how are you?
Great, glad to be here.
Thank you. And of course, I'm sorry I didn't introduce myself the second time around. I'm Anne. I'm with NIS America, and I'll be hosting today. Thank you all for joining me. So we're going to both go over the Anime Expo panel, just in brief for those of you who couldn't be there in person, and also introduce our lovely hosts here and share some thoughts about the panel, more information about the NIS America demos that you all got to play at Anime Expo, and then at the end we have a bit of a surprise for you all. So now that,
Surprises.
yeah, so everybody make sure to stick around for that at the end. So first of all, David, I'd like to start with you. Start with the left side of the screen today. So you run the YouTube channel David Vink RPGs, and I'd love to hear more about your background and what got you started with your channel, and of course, all about the first JRPG you played.
Okay, sure. So, I never thought that I would ever in a million billion years get on YouTube. It just wasn't even anywhere in my mind at all. I went to college to be a teacher. I majored in history. I was never tech savvy. That was never my thing. I remember even whenever I was like in high school and I had to like type up a paper, I would ask my brother to type it for me because I was such a bad typer. Like I was not computer literate at all. It was really, really bad. So for me to make this kind of turn into being a YouTuber, being a tech-based, being a computer job, it's a lot for me. And I tell people on my channel all the time, like, I'm not computer savvy, I really don't know what I'm doing, and it's the truth. So I went to school to be a teacher, and I taught school for 14 years. I began as a high school history teacher. I did that for many years, went down to elementary, and then I also did middle school as well. My last year teaching, I was actually in kindergarten, because my channel was taking off so much. I was like, I need kind of like a break. Like, fifth grade it's a bit much, but kindergarten, I can do ABCs, 1, 2, 3s, it's fine, and I could focus on the channel and all that. But what actually really kicked it off was my husband. He travels a lot for work. In fact, he's out of town right now as we speak, and he's going to be out of town next week too. He was out of town the previous 2 weeks. He's always out of town. So there was this one summer break that he was out of town for all 8 weeks straight. He would just come home on the weekend. And I'm like, bored out of my freaking mind. And I'm sitting there and I'm watching H.C. Bailey do his Let's Plays. And I'm sitting there and I'm like grinding and I'm hearing him doing his Let's Plays and I'm grinding and all this. And then I thought to myself, you know what? I can do this. I'm like, if he can do this, I can do this. How hard could it possibly be? Answer, pretty freaking hard. So I ended up figuring it out, and I started it that summer, just doing Let's Plays. Didn't even have a camera. I remember I sat on my bed with a microphone from Rosetta Stone, one of those little Rosetta language learning programs, learning German or whatever. And I sat on my bed with a little laptop, and I started learning how to Let's Play. And I remember one of my very first Let's Plays I ever did, I said something like, I'm not going to edit out the battles because I think it's important that you see each and every battle. But the real reason was I had no idea to edit out any battles. I had no idea what I was doing. So, like, I guess the moral of the story is if you want to make a career change and you want to go on YouTube and you've no clue what you're doing, you can still succeed.
Well, so I don't want to date you or anything, but how many years ago was that when you were first starting your channel to today?
Oh gosh. Probably like 2016-ish. Whenever I
Wow,
first started
okay.
my channel. Yeah. Yeah, I graduated college in 2005, and I taught school all the way up till 2018-ish, something like that. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And so what made you decide to focus on JRPGs specifically? Or did you not
I
start as that?
always like it's literally the only genre of games that I play. It's like JRPGs and maybe a Mario or maybe a Kirby. Like that's it. It's been all JRPGs all the time for me. Was no other question in my mind as far as what it is I'm going to focus on. I started off playing, Dragon Warrior back whenever I was a little kid. I got it when I was 7 years old, and I've been hooked ever since. I would play other games on the NES because, my brother was there and he would play, Contra or Urban Champion or City Connection, these other games or whatever. And then the SNES came around and, he would buy Street Fighter 2 and Mortal Kombat and Mario World and all that. And I'm buying, Chrono Trigger, Earthbound, and Final Fantasy and all that. But then whenever the PlayStation hit, he went and he purchased an N64, and I remember telling him, I was like, why are you buying an N64? What's on an N64? Give me a break. And Square Enix went to PlayStation, so I'm like, duh, I'm gonna buy a PlayStation, and the rest is history. And he ended up pretty much never playing his N64, and I pretty much always played my PlayStation, and that's, because it was 3D, I am still to this day notoriously horrible at anything involving platforming, jumping, anything in 3D. Notoriously freaking horrible at it. Mostly because I didn't practice. I didn't learn during the PlayStation era how to do it because I only played the JRPGs. So nowadays, whenever like some Souls-like or something comes around, and it's like I can barely even deal with the combat, let alone having to jump from platform to platform, it's just not going to happen. Like it's really bad. So I just stick to the turn-based combat, or the not. I shouldn't just say the turn-based combat, but I stick to what I know. I stick to the JRPGs, the strategy RPGs, the action RPGs, the turn-based RPGs, of course. But the less jumping, the better. We'll just put it that way.
Awesome.
You
Well,
there, Rian?
oh, we've had a little bit of feedback maybe, but hopefully we're all back here. Do I sound all right? Yeah, I'm okay now. All right,
I hear
awesome.
some feedback going on right there with your. Yeah, much better.
Okay, my computer's chugging along a little bit here, but I think we're okay. Well, glad to have you, David. I'm excited to hear you talk more about JRPGs today. And next up, Brandon. So you also run a YouTube channel. It's called Just the Gems, and your first JRPG is also Dragon Warrior. So can you tell us a little bit more about your background and how you decided to start your channel?
Yeah, I've played JRPGs since I was a little kid, similar to David, starting with Dragon Warrior and just being obsessed with Squaresoft and well, any JRPG I could get my hands on as a kid. I mean, there weren't all that many. It feels like there were a lot, but that was like the accumulation of like 2 generations worth of consoles of games. And I made the mistake, like your brother, of picking up the N64 and really regretted it for several years. I mean, there's some great games on the N64, no hate, but the PlayStation was where it was at. So when I finally was able to get my hands on a PlayStation, it just blew my mind, and it like solidified the fact that this is the genre that I like. This is the genre that speaks to me the most. Like, and it's not even close, really. So anyway, fast forward, life got busy as I was kind of becoming an adult, or I don't know that I'm quite there yet, but as I was in the process of figuring that out, I kind of gamed a little bit less. I kept up with every console. I made sure to buy the new PlayStation, but I wasn't playing games as much. RPGs were typically really long, and they were getting longer, so I wasn't as active in the space as I was during my like late 20s, early 30s. And then I want to say, I don't know, was it 6 years ago, 8 years ago, something like that? I started watching YouTube, and I specifically started watching video game collecting channels. And something about that just like kind of lit a fire in me, and I was like, that looks like a lot of fun. I remember having all these games. I used to have a ton of games, and I had sold almost everything. Like if you look at my shelves, there's more over here you can't see, but I've got a lot of games. I had two. I think I had held on to like two from childhood. And so I was like, I should get more. I should get my games back. So I started going around to thrift stores and doing basically what I saw the people on the game collecting YouTube channels doing, looking for the deals. And when I couldn't find the deals, I wasn't patient, so I would just go on eBay and spend way too much money. And pretty soon, I had amassed a really big collection of games. Was I a little irresponsible with my money? No, I was a lot irresponsible with my money. But I had all these games and I loved it. I felt like, I had this curated library of 95% JRPGs, plus some other games from my childhood that I have an affinity for. And then I was like, I really should do YouTube too, because I love watching it so much. And then I looked around at my games. I was like, maybe I should have started when I was getting the games. Like that might have been a cool channel. Like collecting specifically really expensive JRPGs. But too late. I already have them all. So I guess I could have faked it. So they accuse channels of faking it a lot. I could have just faked it. I should have faked it. But anyway, I still kind of wanted to do YouTube, but I was like, what am I going to do? I don't have anything to say, right? Like, who cares what I have to say about games? And it still kind of surprises me that anybody gives a crap about what I have to say about anything, let alone games. But I finally was just like, I'm gonna try it, and maybe it won't go anywhere, but it'll be fun, hopefully, and I'll have a story to tell out of it. And yeah, that was a couple of years ago, just over 2 years ago now, and yeah, I've been loving it. It's been so much fun to connect with people online and getting to meet so many of you at Anime Expo. Last month was really cool, kind of like mind-blowingly cool in some very profound ways. So I'm just really grateful for just the fact that I'm able to do this at all.
Awesome. I had no idea you've only been doing this about 2 years. That's really impressive. Well, thank you. I'm looking forward to talking to you more.
In some ways it feels like a decade, and in other ways it feels like it was like last week. But
just wait till it is a decade.
Yeah, that's all right. Well, thank you. And now we'll move on to Cam. So you're a little bit different than our first two hosts today. You've worked in freelance games journalism and have experience with content creation as well. And you're contrary in the first JRPG you played as well was Pokemon Red and Blue. So what got you interested in hosting and games journalism?
Yeah, so okay. So when it comes to the game journalism stuff, I've always like consumed a lot of games journalism. Like I would always like scour IGN reviews, GameSpot reviews, and the likes. Game Informer, rest in peace. And that I just like loved hearing people's opinions on games, and I was just like, I want to do that. Like I want to like be a person that people respect my they don't even have to agree, but like they just respect my takes on video games, and hopefully like ultimately sharing and my love for specific games, and hoping that other people will give those games a shot, especially JRPGs, which in the grand scheme of things in the industry is a niche genre, right? And so that's what, when I got to college, I was actually going to college for music. Because going into college, it kind of felt like a pipe dream. It felt like such a unattainable thing to accomplish was like 2013 for me. And so I just like, but the music stuff wasn't really working out. And so I just decided to switch quickly after I got into college. And I went for journalism, and I got my degree. And then shortly after that, I just kind of kept following the space, following different communities, and really just like networking myself to potentially get my foot in the door. And then I did. I got my foot in the door at Dual Shockers, and then I worked there. I like wrote there for a little under 2 years, and then I just did freelancing for the most part for like 3 or 4 years. And that's, so I've written for IGN. I've written for Game Informer. I've written for a few other notable sites, and yeah, and it's been really nice just being able to share my thoughts and like grow an audience, mainly on social media, that just like to hear my thoughts more so on JRPGs, but just in games in general. And yeah, JRPGs are my favorite genre. I love JRPGs. Pokemon was like, I think for a lot of people that grew up around my time, like really fell in love with Pokemon, and like a lot of people consider Pokemon to be like baby's first JRPG, right? It's because it's a pretty straightforward, you get to collect these monsters that you like, you do these turn-based battles, and you're trying to obtain these gym badges, and it's just that, right? And it still works to this day. That's why we're 9 generations in, and the concept is exactly the same because it works. It is something that like kids can understand the concept of and achieve those things. And yeah, so I know that for me for those that weren't at the panel at Anime Expo, unintentionally I was getting some shots taken from David because I was making it sound like I was so much younger than David and Brandon. But so I'm not trying to do that here, but like growing up, I didn't really have a lot of consoles. I had an SNES, but I think I was like too young at the time when I got it. I was probably like 4 to really like understand it. But then I got the Game Boy, and that I still have my original Game Boy Color to this day. It's still my favorite handheld to this day. A lot of it's because of nostalgia, and I'm perfectly okay with like admitting that. And just playing like Pokemon, and then Pokemon Red and Blue, and then Pokemon Gold and Silver, and then Pokemon Crystal, and then like all these other games alongside that. It was just such a magical handheld to me. Even though at the time it was just such a niche thing, but just getting like the light thing to go to be able to play the games at night, and the link cable to trade Pokemon, and it was just such a...
I think it was like a transformer.
Yeah.
Like, as you remember that? You had the battery pack, you had the light thing, you had the plug into the wall. Oh my gosh, it like transformed in front of your eyes. The thing was massive.
Yes.
Loved my Game Boy.
Yes, loved Game Boy. And then when it came to the like after the Color, it was just the Advance, and then the SP. Eventually I got a PS2, and that was like my real first console in a way, where it was mine. I got games every Christmas because like my parents didn't really like video games. They didn't really understand video games. They thought it was a waste of money. So I would get stuff for Christmas and my birthday, and that was it. So I just had to, whatever I got is what I had to get me through the years. And yeah, I really, really love JRPGs, and I think that they're a very versatile genre where there's like just so much potential and opportunity to not just for gameplay but for storytelling.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, we're very excited to continue the conversation, and just to circle back to that Anime Expo panel again for those of you who are in the chat and didn't get to attend, unfortunately we don't have a recording of it, but we're going to share some of our post-panel thoughts here. So we really did that panel as like an introduction. It was called Dive into the Wide World of JRPGs, and we all talked about your history with JRPGs, which you've briefly gone over today, and then just an overview of what are JRPGs and what are the differences between JRPGs and WRPGs, being Western RPGs, and looking at some of those appealing aspects of JRPGs, particularly for the three of you, what you find appealing about them. Would you be able to briefly go over like some of your key takeaways from that panel?
Yeah, one of the biggest things that we kept coming back to was sort of the differences between JRPGs and Western RPGs, and like I will admit, like it wasn't until after the panel that I learned that that's like a contentious issue. Apparently people get very upset about this topic sometimes. And to me, it's always just kind of felt like a no-brainer. Like, you know, one of the things that I think we talked about in a general sense was like how JRPG stories tend to be more focused on like a community sort of storytelling approach where you've got a team of characters, whereas like Western RPGs tend to be very like self-individualized focused with like a hero that's like almost always a blank slate that you create from scratch and you kind of embody, just as one example. And there's other examples certainly.
Yeah, just kind of going off of that, is that over the past few years, I think it was like closer around the time Final Fantasy 16 was about to come out, there was like this discussion, especially from Japanese devs like Yoshi P, who was director of Final Fantasy 14, executive producer for 16. He's talking about like how back in the day, JRPG was kind of like a derogatory term. Like it sounded like it came across as like a gatekeeping type of term where it couldn't be sit at the table where all the Western RPGs were. And from the Western side, that wasn't really like, that's not how we saw it, right? And like growing up, again, I think that when JRPGs first began in a real way in the West, there was kind of this uncertainty on what defines a JRPG. Because again, like for me, as someone who grew up with Pokemon and turn-based combat, for growing up, I thought that a JRPG was just a game with turn-based combat. It didn't have to be like a Japanese developer or a Western developer, and I think that is true to a certain degree still. Not the turn-based combat, but just the developer. And now it's like we have a more definitive explanation or a definition of what a JRPG is. And yeah, I think that there are very key things about Western JRPG, Western role-playing games versus Japanese role-playing games. Similar to what Brandon said, where you normally have like a blank character and you're either playing just by yourself, or you do have a party and you're making choices that directly affect the story. And while JRPGs are more scripted from the ground up, like there are still like blanket type heroes, like Hero from Dragon Quest, right? You could argue the protagonists from the Persona series, that those are still not defined heroes or characters with a specific characterization.
As far as I'm concerned, JRPG is a sign of quality. Like, every time that I heard the term JRPG, I knew it was going to be a good game. You might be too young, Cameron, to know what Brandon and I do know, which is that whenever a Western RPG came out of the NES or the SNES, it wasn't good. It was terrible. Like, these Ultima games, they would come out, they were god-awful. So, whenever you saw a JRPG, you knew what you were looking at, and you knew that they were good. It was sometime around the PS3 era, whenever I guess the Western RPGs kind of figured it out. They figured out how to make a good game, and that's also kind of coincides to what you were talking about whenever they said that JRPGs was a derogatory term. Because, that's whenever Dragon Age Origins came out, the Skyrim came out, these other games came out, and what are the JRPGs at the time? You have the Final Fantasy 13 trilogy, and some other kind of no-name-ish games. The Tales games came out, but we had to beg and plead for these Tales games to come out. Yeah. I remember kind of similar to the Operation Rainfall thing that happened with Xenoblade and Last Story and Pandora's Tower. We had to beg and plead for Tales of Graces F to come out, for Xillia to come out. We got Tales of Vesperia, but that only came out on the 360. We didn't get the definitive version for the PS3. It was begging and pleading and just groveling for these games to come out during that era, whereas we got tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of Western RPGs. So that was really the first time that I actually enjoyed a Western RPG. I had to play it kind of out of necessity because there weren't any JRPGs to play. I ended up purchasing an Xbox 360 before I purchased a PS3, simply because the JRPGs on the Xbox 360 came out first. Xbox 360 was actually known as a JRPG console when it first came out. By the end of the era, the PS3 did overtake the 360, but yeah, I had to buy it because of Blue Dragon, bought it because of Tales of Vesperia, bought it because of Lost Odyssey, Eternal Sonata was on it, Star Ocean 4. All those games came out first on the 360, then they later came out on the PS3, and yeah, so that's my take on it.
I'm actually kind of curious, like, when you played those Western RPGs, were there certain things that you realized that you specifically look for or want the most out of a JRPG? Because for me, I when I got exposed to Mass Effect, BioWare, I think BioWare is like the closest. I think that BioWare JRPG or RPGs made me realize how important or like how meaningful significant world building and a colorful cast of characters really enhance a game like that, which we normally see in JRPGs.
Yeah. I guess the first like Western RPG, if you can even call it that, the first Western RPG that I played that I enjoyed was EverQuest. That was a MMO popular in the late 90s, early 2000s. I played that for a long time, and then whenever I got around to the Dragon Age series, it reminded me a lot of EverQuest. I played as a wizard there, and I remember seeing the little, I don't know, the little icons or whatever for the spells on the bottom of the screen. I was like, this is just like EverQuest. This is a lot of fun. And there was a lot of world building there in EverQuest as well, with every town and the different races and beasts and elves and dwarves and all this other kind of stuff. And it was the same thing in the Western RPGs as well. But there are some JRPGs that do that world building really well, and I think the Tales series is one of those that does the world building exceptionally well, as far as the colorful cast of characters as well. It's like, I feel like every time I play Tales series, it's like you take these disparate characters who all kind of hate each other, and then they're thrown together into this group, and they're like forced to go and save the world, and all they do is bicker, argue, and moan at each other the entire game.
Those are legitimately some of my favorite casts.
They're
party
hysterical. They're
casts.
hysterical.
Are the party members that are just like binded by fate? They hate each other.
At each other's
each
throats
other.
the whole time.
Like Final Fantasy 13. I love
Yeah.
Final Fantasy 13, and I love that party because they hate each other like throughout 90% of that game.
Yeah. Reminds me of Tales of Vesperia.
Oh yeah.
Rita
yeah.
is like smacking Carol every time she turns around. It's
Oh yeah.
a lot of fun.
I think for me, like the openness of Western RPGs was something that I was excited to see Japanese developers or Japanese role-playing games in general kind of get their hands on. And I think kind of exemplified by like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth this past year, really nailed an open world in a JRPG in a way that I don't think has been done before. And it's interesting, Cam, when you mentioned earlier that like in the beginning it was hard to even say what a JRPG was. Like for a while we thought, well, it's turn-based games, or oh, it's characters that look like anime or this or that. And that just made me think like it's a really unique period that we're living in, because not only are we here for the creation basically of a new art form, right? Like how many people throughout history have been present for the birth of a new form of art? Very, very, very few people in history have been there for that. But also within that, like we're seeing this genre, and we've been with this genre since we were kids, right? Watching this genre develop, and now, even though it's still a challenge, like now we're much better able to define what a JRPG is than when we were kids and had no idea.
We had no idea. We just had magazines. The internet wasn't there. We had no idea. We only knew what the magazine told us. Essentially,
Right.
That's it.
Yep.
Yep, that's right. Luckily now we can get together either in person on Anime Expo or through the power of the internet and talk everything we want to say about JRPGs. So I wanted to go next into the Renatus trail, where I'll play in the background just so we can discuss Renatus as, you know, what we thought made this clearly a JRPG, and also your thoughts of the demo, because you all got to play it at our booth at Anime Expo.
Sure.
So this one I know, sorry, was it Oh, I've forgotten which one of you said this already, but you mentioned that, to you that JRPGs were turn-based, but in the example of Renatus, this is definitely not a turn-based game,
Right.
but yet it's
Yes.
still, I think you all agreed at the panel, and hopefully your thoughts are the same, that it very clearly exudes JRPG. So what to you
Yeah.
makes this a JRPG?
Well, I mean, the JRPG genre, it has expanded over the years to include, you have the turn-based JRPGs, you have the strategy RPGs, you have the real-time strategy RPGs, you have the action RPGs. There's a lot. This is obviously an action RPG. I actually enjoyed the demo. I had fun with this demo. It's been a month since I played it, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. I didn't think I would, and then I played it, and I did. It kind of surprised me. It's one of those games that kind of grows on you. You know what I mean? I also seem to like the story. It's just interesting. You have these wizards walking around in this human world, but the wizards kind of have to go into hiding and everything. So it's just interesting. And the color scheme, beautiful. Beautiful. I love the pinks and the purples and all that. It's definitely my type of game.
Yeah, with the limited exposure, obviously, that we've had to the story, I can already see, just from the bits that we've seen in the trailer and from playing the game, that one of the things that makes it feel the most JRPG-ish to me is that story. Just the setting of, it's almost like two worlds that are existing together in the same space. That's a very JRPG feeling type of story to me. And I have a hard time kind of putting that into better words than that. But, two coexisting worlds that are maybe, against each other, that are existing in the same space. That's just a very, the Tales of series comes to mind. You think of all of the different Tales of games where there's these two opposing worlds that are set against each other. There's something about certain kinds of stories, or the way stories are told, that makes a game feel more like a JRPG to me, and I definitely picked up on some of that from what I've seen of Renata so far.
Yeah, I like that Tales of Eternia kind of thing that you just went through there.
Yep.
Yeah, I think from the demo, the thing I'm most curious about is the world. Is the setup of why are these super powerful wizards in hiding from humans? When what led to that, and how?
Yeah.
Why do they have to do it? And having it being in Shibuya is really interesting. I'm curious as to, again, just what led to what is the setup of all this, and what is really the kind of end goal of, is it wizards being able to just be out and coexist, or is it no, the wizards are trying to take over? What is the vibe of the narrative going forward?
Yeah, well, luckily you'll be able to try it out when it comes out on September 27th. And you also had a chance to see our other demos at the NIS America booth. So we had Ease 10 is another one. Did any of you get to try that out while you were there?
Me.
Oh, what'd you think, David?
I love the Ease series. I've played all the games in the Ease series. I remember the first Ease game that I played was Ease 3,
Wow.
which I didn't like. But it was I don't know, it was like a black sheep of the series. But then I played Ease 6 in the PS2, and 7, 8, 9. I went back and I played the remake of Ease 3, and just, I love the whole series. This one, it takes place between Ease 2 and Ease 3, so Adol's younger, whenever he was much older in Ease 9. Every single Ease game takes place, basically it's Adol keeps a diary. He keeps a travel log of the places that he goes to, and every game is just one of the diary entries. So you can play them in anywhere that you want to, doesn't really matter, but this game is so much frickin' fun. Taking control of Adol or Karja and kind of switching through and doing the mana, all that kind of stuff. And, I don't know, the combos and everything is a lot of fun.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to play the demo myself, but I did get to see President Kodo play it at the first panel of the weekend at Anime Expo, and that was a lot of fun. I thought he did a really good job. Proud to see Kodo.
Jealous.
Great. We were right in the front row too. We got there super early.
You're killing me.
Amazing seats. We were 5 feet behind him.
Killing me.
I'm glad it was you.
Yeah, it's
who happened
I'm
on
really
the
excited
show.
to play this game because I actually just played East 1 and 2, and this takes place. This is like the next one in line, and there are like significant things that happen at the end of East 2, and I'm like, I wonder how that's going to translate into this game. Like obviously there's other things like other games down the line during Adel's life, but that is something I'm really curious about, and it's just kind of nice going back to when he's much younger compared to East 9, where it is the farthest along in his timeline. He's like 6 years older than he is now, and it's really cool that they're playing with the party system or lack thereof, where it is just Adel and Karja, like they're the only two, and it's just kind of them bouncing off each other. And surely there's going to be like narrative reasons for that, because that's what Falcom does. They always have an explanation for everything, which is one of the things that makes them as a developer so great. So yeah, I'm really excited to check it out.
Awesome, glad to hear it. Again, well, we've got, 2 action RPGs in a row, but we also announced Trails to Daybreak 2 at Anime Expo. Yeah. So coming out early next year, so we're really excited about that. And I believe all of you maybe have played some of Trails to Daybreak now that that's out as well.
Beaten it.
Oh,
you beat
awesome.
it already. Okay.
Beaten it. Yep. I love the localization speed. Not to like put any other companies down, Exceed, but whenever y'all took it over, you're like boom, 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 boom. Just like last year, y'all put out like 4 Trails games. It's crazy. And like it used to be like 2 years or something between the releases and everything, and now we're getting them all the time, and it's great because I think that the biggest problem with the West adapting to the Trails series was it's such a long game, and there's so much to keep track of, and it's like you beat this game, it takes you 100 hours, you're trying to keep track of all these characters and the story and the world and the countries and the cities and blah 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 blah. But then you have to wait 2 years for the next game to come out. By the time the 2 years rolls around, you've forgotten everything. And Lord knows you don't want to play the game again because it took so 100 hours. So now that, it's like, 6 months between the releases, it's so much easier to keep track of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just want to double down and saying that it has been a very loud request from the Trails community to get like the localization of these of the games in Japan out faster, and I think it was a really big surprise that it's coming out as early next year. So that's really exciting, and kudos to you guys, because that is not easy. Trails has so much dialogue, and I salute y'all. I salute your localization team, because that's quite a thing to overcome in such a short amount of time. And yeah, I love Trails. Like, it is my, I've played through the series over the past few years, and it is now like one of my favorite franchises. I have a Trails tattoo. I had Kondo sign my arm and I got it tattooed. I can't show y'all for the sake of the cropping, but you can check my Twitter at CampFileMix, and there's pictures there and stuff. But yeah, this is really exciting. I love Trails. I will drop everything to play a new Trails game, and yeah.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I connected with the Trails series so profoundly. Way back when it first came out, I had the PSP version of Trails in the Sky, and yeah, the speedy localization is crazy to me, because I had to wait years and years and years.
I lined
for
up
a new
outside of
Trails
GameStop in order to get that game whenever it came out for the PSP. I remember that.
Nice.
I also remember seeing some meme of it was like War and Peace, and then the Trails series, and the Trails series localization pages or whatever was thicker than War and Peace, and it's like, come on.
And the great thing, like, and I don't, I'm not trying to stoke controversy here. That's not what I do. But the great thing about the Trails series, even though it's this like epically huge story, I feel like Falcom really figured out, they like cracked the code on how to tell a long form story in this sort of format by dividing the series into arcs, right? Like, if you think about it, that's the brilliant thing that other games, other series that have tried to do long form storytelling have kind of dropped the ball with. like say Xenosaga back on the PS2, famously cut short, lots of problems there. What Trails does is it says, okay, here's 2, 3, maybe 4 games. This is an arc. And then we're going to start a new arc. And yes, the story does carry through, and there's tons of callbacks and like lots of interesting lore that runs throughout, but you jump on at the start of a new arc, and then you're not overwhelmed with this need to go back in order to understand the game. Like, I can't imagine sitting down to play Xenosaga 3 without having played Xenosaga 1 and 2, but you can absolutely sit down and play Trails Through Daybreak and understand the game, and maybe that makes you want to go back and play the other games in the series. Maybe you just want to keep going forward from here. That's fine. And it's just like such a smart, like, it's such a smart way of telling a story like this. I love it.
Not to, stoke any drama or anything, because that's not what I do here, Brandon. But, like, I made a video about, like, hey, it's kind of okay to start at Trails Through Daybreak. It's really not that big of a deal. The vast majority of the commenters were like, okay. But then you had some crazy people. And they went on. But, I mean, if you want to, honestly, it's a game. Enjoy your game. It's fine.
Have fun.
Exactly. Have fun. That's what we're here for. Have fun.
Yeah, and if you enjoy Trails of Daybreak, you can, look forward to all of those characters returning in Trails of Daybreak 2, because it will be picking off and continuing that new chapter that's just started. So we're very excited to see that story continue in early next year. Cam, it looks like you have something you want to say.
This is somewhat related, but I just want to say it while people can hear it. Like, shout out to whoever on your team does it, but y'all kill it with especially Trails, but in general, y'all kill it with the limited editions, like the collector's editions.
Oh my god!
Thank you.
I think y'all do a really great job at like creating physical goodies that are related to the story or the world or something that it's like something that I really want in a collector's edition. Like, obviously the steelbooks are great. Like, that's like the main thing for me. And I love a good statue as well. But like, for example, this Arc Ride Solutions business card holder, genius, genius idea. And I just wanted to say, like, and I got my Daybreak 2 limited edition pre-ordered. I have all of the Trails limited editions already, like, that are out. But I just wanted to say shout out to y'all because they're really, really cool.
Oh,
in fact, I just ordered some business cards today that I'm going to be bringing to a special event later on, and I'm totally going to put them inside of that business card holder, because why not?
Yeah, great idea. Thank you. Glad to hear it. We'll definitely let everyone in the merch team know. Okay, well, just as we wrap up our thoughts on Anime Expo, was there anything that, we covered, like, very broadly JRPGs. We introduced everybody to the genre, people who maybe are familiar but didn't know the ins and outs, and, those who maybe are familiar but want to hear your thoughts on them. Is there anything that you wish you could have chatted more about? We had limited time there, and, we have limited time today, unfortunately. But is there anything, like, you really wish we could talk more about related to JRPGs?
Like, as far as I'm concerned, like, I could talk about JRPGs till I'm blue in the face. So, I mean, like, I could talk about the battle system. I could talk about my favorite series. I could talk about the stories. I mean, the stories are great. They're some of the best stories I've ever heard in gaming. So, I mean, like, being able to talk about that, I think, would just be fantastic.
Yeah, since we were so focused on kind of introducing the concept of the genre to people and sort of comparing it to other similar genres, we didn't really get to go into a lot of the more story focused, which if you've seen my channel, like, that's like my bread and butter. That's what I'm really most interested in. So I would say story stuff would be what I would most be interested in talking about.
Yeah, I think the main thing is just, I think JRPGs are probably the most personal in the sense of what really speaks to what specific aspects speak to you in a JRPG, and like what specific stories speak to you in a JRPG. Because, like, we talked to each other before the Anime Expo panel, and like we all have like a different favorite JRPG series, right? We all have like different tastes, but like we all kind of look for different things when we play JRPGs. Like David said during the Anime Expo panel that he focuses on like the fun factor of a JRPG, and like I focus more on like I do need a battle system that is going to keep me interested, especially because these games are long. But ultimately, like I consume JRPGs like I'm reading books. Like I want to experience stories, I want to experience characters, because there is a sense of adventure that you get in JRPGs that and video games in a broader sense that you just like don't get in books or other mediums. That
It's
like
an interactive story.
yeah, you get that interactive aspect to it. And so for me, it's more like the stories, like the characters, and because we all come from like different backgrounds, different histories, different upbringings, like we're always going to like feel differently about certain stories and certain characters.
Yeah, so there's certainly a lot to talk about there, and that's great that you all say that because we're going to be talking about stories at PAX West on August 30th. So we just had to have all of you come back for another panel. We're super excited to have you again, and we'll be chatting about the power of stories in JRPGs in the Blue Dragon Theater on Friday, August 30th. So we'll get to do that all again. And the extra exciting thing about this panel is it will both be streamed and recorded. So unlike the Anime Expo panel, everybody can tune in live, even if you aren't there in person, or check out the VOD afterwards. So I'm super excited to see all three of you there again. Have you any of you been to PAX before? PAX West?
I've never been to PAX, but I'm so excited to go to PAX, and I'm so happy that y'all are going to be streaming this so that I don't get a million billion trillion comments of, David, where can I watch this? David, did you record this? David, did you stream this? Oh my gosh, where is this? No, didn't. I'm sorry. So I'm so happy that it's going to be streamed. Everybody can watch it. I can meet more people. This is my favorite thing, is going out and meeting people and just talking to people. It's a lot of fun. So I am so excited to go to PAX. Super excited. This
is my like third or maybe fourth PAX West. I go pretty often. So I love PAX. I'm excited to go to Seattle and have a good time and see David and Brendan in person again. Because last time it was kind of like Brendan and David kind of like knew each other beforehand, but for me it was just kind of like meeting them, panel, and then we had to dip.
And then out. Yeah.
And so
I had to get a flight within an hour after I left.
Yeah, we're gonna be able to stay a little bit longer, and you know, we have some plans to hang out and things like that already, so we're gonna be able to like chop it up a little bit more, get to know each other's tastes a little bit more, and so that's gonna be a good time.
Yeah, for sure.
Doing karaoke. Fun.
Ooh, fun. I'm really excited to see now, you know, you get to kind of hash things out outside of the panel too, so you'll be able to bring those insights and conversations into the panel as well. So I'm very excited to hear what you have to say about stories and everything. Especially because all three of you have definitely kept reiterating how great, you know, narratives are in JRPGs, how important these stories are to you. I really want to hear more about, you know, the different types of genres of stories there are, like what your favorites are, what you think is popular these days. So there's certainly a lot to talk about. I'm sure we could even fill more than an hour just talking about stories.
Easily.
I could talk about till I'm blue in the face episode.
So one title that we definitely want to touch on in this panel as well, and you were able to see at Anime Expo, is Phantom Brave: The Lost Hero. So I'll just play that trailer now as well. Now this title is super cute and has a super colorful story, a bit more lighthearted than some of these, you know, world-ending type of narratives. But I think it's really interesting to talk about this title in context of our story discussion, which we'll save for PAX. But for now, I wanted to hear, for those of you who are able to play the demo, kind of what you thought, your first impressions of this title.
Yeah, so I got to play the demo at Anime Expo, and I walked away very high on it. I love tactics games, but I'm not particularly good at them. And so I like how it was approachable, and it doesn't feel like if you make one mistake, your entire run is ruined and you have to restart. And like, it's not, you know, it's forgiving, but still a fun enough challenge to not feel too easy, I guess is the best way to explain it. And Phantom Brave has some really interesting strategic mechanics into it, where the main character can find items and turn them into your units that are all like ghosts, phantoms, if you will, and but they all have like a specific timer where like if they aren't if once that timer's gone, they disappear and you cannot resummon them for the rest of the battle. So you have to decide when you want to utilize certain units and like send them in to fight for you. Um, so that's a very interesting thing that I haven't experienced in a tactics like game before. And I also like there was the new main character who basically has like this giant mech suit that she can go into, and it's like a giant barrel with like legs, and can just wail on enemies. It's also a way to like kind of protect her. And like if the suit gets destroyed, then it's like, oh, like I can just get out of the suit and I'm still here and I can still contribute to the fight. Yeah, I didn't get a whole long time with it, but it definitely piqued my interest, and I'm very excited to play more of it.
I have spoken quite a bit about RPG series that began on the PS2 and then the HD era hit and boom, they died. And it's so nice to see that this game, Phantom Brave, that began on the PS2, didn't die. It's back. It has risen from the ashes. And I just have to say again, like, NIS as a company is really good about bringing their games, their older games, and making them more accessible. Like Rhapsody, we just got a collection of those coming on in. They have those NIS collection classics that they bring in, and all that. So that's really freaking good. So it's nice to see that you haven't forgotten your past. You still know your past, and you are still building off these IPs that you have had for quite a bit of time. And yeah, Phantom Brave, it began on the PS2, it got a port on the PSP, it went over to the Wii and all this other stuff, but then we heard nothing of it, and now it is here as a sequel. And it is definitely a little bit on the harder side, because not only do you have the strategy RPG aspect of it just being a strategy RPG, and in general those are harder, but you have the phantoms kind of unsummoning as well. So I know that was a bit unforgiving in the original version of the game. I hope that isn't as unforgiving in the sequel. We shall see. We don't know. But it is cute. It is cozy. It's one of those games that you can play episodically. You can play it like one battle at a time. You can pick it up, you can play a battle, you can put it down. It's just, it's the way that they have it formatted in this episode chapter system and everything. It really lends itself to picking up and playing just like a battle here and a battle there once a day until you beat it. And it's just, it's not an overly complex storyline, and a lot of strategy RPGs, they can get very political. They can get very bogged down in their old English and their various characters and people killing other people and who murdered who and what's going on. This is just, lighthearted, good, happy fun.
Yeah, I agree. Like I've been playing Phantom Brave, the original, kind of similarly to how you described, just kind of episodically picking it up, playing a couple of battles, watching a few story bits, and then moving on. And it's perfect in these bite-sized chunks because the story is just this like little injection of whimsy into my day, right? Like it's just a lot of fun. I completely missed. I want to say I missed the demo at AX. I didn't know, like I didn't even know it was there. I missed it so hard that I didn't even see it. And I was at the NISA booth multiple times. I don't know how I didn't see it. So I'm bummed that I missed it, but we'll get a chance to play it, I'm sure, before the end of the month. But yeah, like, the Phantom Brave series has just that Nipponichi charm to it. The character designs, just the quirkiness. It's so much fun. It's a lot of fun to experience that story. And I actually found, like, it's a challenging game, but I found the gameplay novel enough that
it's different.
It's different,
really
and it keeps
different.
it keeps my interest in a way that a lot of the more bog standard strategy RPGs don't.
Yeah, you can't just go in there with your super powerful, Thunder God Sid and annihilate everybody.
Mm-hmm.
You have to really stop and think because of the way that you have to attach your characters to the various objects in the field. Like, do you want your warrior to be faster? Maybe you'll attach him to a fan or something and he'll be really fast. Do you want him to have more defense? Attach him to a rock. and he'll get extra defense power. You know, you really have to stop and think about what you're doing rather than just saying, let me just level up this character a whole bunch. Okay, let me just trample the whole battlefield. The
Just
end.
grind,
Done.
grind. Yep.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it really does put the strategy in strategy RPG.
That's for sure. But this game is really exciting too because there's so much character customization. You can actually choose from, I believe it's like 51 different units that you create yourselves, and you can build them out exactly how you want. So there's a lot of freedom in not only the gameplay, like moving around on the map, confining your characters to different items, but also making the characters themselves.
Yeah, I was actually gonna say really quick is that one of the things I think is kind of cool is that like the people that like give you the resources in between battles are also a part of your party, and so like you'll go back to your home island, and then you go to one of your party members who's a healer, and they will like heal your team, or like you have a merchant member, and they are the ones where you buy items from, and it's also really funny because if they they die in battle, they'll come back to the island and they're just like face planted on the ground, and then you have to go to the healer to get them back up. It's like that level of like unnecessary detail and charm that just like makes it so fun.
It is. It's cute. It's charming. You know, it really is. It's definitely a charming little game. Definitely.
Yeah, well, looking forward to hear you talk more about that as well as stories in general at the panel at PAX. And I'm going to share more of the information about our booth just here. Oh, there we go. So we'll be at booth 713 in the Arch Building at PAX West. And we have an official PAX website. We're really excited to share that we'll have Phantom Brave the Lost Hero as a demo at the show. We're going to have East 10 Nordics again, Renatus again, and we'll be having, for the very first time, Trails Through Daybreak 2 will be a demo at the booth. So we're very excited for everyone to come play that. Of course, you all and everyone in the chat and everyone watching the VOD. And just as we close things up here, maybe could you share what you're most looking forward to at PAX? And also be sure to drop your YouTube channel, your social media handles so everyone can follow you.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I'm just looking forward to meeting people. You know, I'm looking forward to the experience. I've never been to PAX. I've barely been to many expos, gaming expos or whatever at all. It was never really my thing. I've kind of been like dragged into it kicking and screaming. So I am totally looking forward to it and meeting people and all that. I had a huge line at the Anime Expo. I was really shocked. So I'm totally looking forward to just experiencing it, just taking it all in, you know. Oh, I'm David Vink at the channel David Vink. Follow me.
Yeah. I'm super excited to go. I've, for one thing, never been to Seattle, believe it or not. Never been to a PAX, and yeah, similarly, I like being able to talk with people and just like nerd out about the stuff that we love together in a public place and just like have a good time doing it. Like that was the most fun thing for me at Anime Expo by far. Like it was just a blast from start to finish, and getting to meet so many people and then work with these guys and be able to talk about this stuff, just super fun. I'm on YouTube. My channel is called Just the Gems, so check it out.
Thank you.
I'm super excited for the panel, of course. I'm excited again to work with Brendan and David again. I'm excited for the Daybreak 2 demo for sure. But also because we're all, as you can see, if you're watching this, all three of us are game collectors. I'm excited to check out Pink Gorilla, which is a notoriously famous like game shop in Seattle that normally has a booth at PAX West as well. So the three of us might have to wander our way over there and
Gorilla, you don't say.
see what they got. Yeah. So
Awesome.
Cool.
Well, great. Thank you all so much. I've had such a great time chatting with you today, and I'm looking forward again to the panel at the end of the month. And, you know, time's going to fly, and we'll be together in Seattle before you know it.
Yeah.
oh yeah.
It's gonna be great.
Awesome.
Hope all of y'all in the comments out there in the Peanut Gallery can also join us at PAX West. Hope
Yes,
to see
come out.
all of you there.
Yes, thank
Don't
you.
judge.
Yes, and if you can't join us in person, it will also be streamed on the PAX Twitch channel, and then we'll have the VOD up on our YouTube, so you can watch that there. Thank you all so much for joining us today. I hope you have a lovely evening, and thank you three again for your time today, and I look forward to talking to you again at our panel.